My pretty woman in a ball gown. I'm Richard Gere in a tux. Getting married in the courthouse. Writing vows in a row.
So by your logic, women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they weren't subject to the draft, right? Okay, well then no one should be voting because the US hasn't had an active draft since 1973. That was over 50 years ago, so unless you're pushing 70 and got called up for Vietnam, maybe sit this one out. The majority of men voting today never faced a draft, never even worried about it. And yet somehow they've still got the right to vote, no questions asked. But when it comes to women, suddenly you want to start attaching prerequisites. Let's really talk about equal responsibilities because plenty of men have avoided military service without consequence. Donald Trump dodged the draft 5 times and still managed to become president. So if not being drafted means you shouldn't vote, then you definitely shouldn't be able to run the country. But I get it. This was never about fairness or logic. This was about sounding edgy online while pandering to men who think rights should only apply when it's convenient for them. I don't know, this just screams pick-me energy dressed up as a history lesson, but you're not ready for that conversation. My favorite part about Zohran Mamdani winning the New York City mayoral race was the absolute crash-outs and fear-mongering Islamophobic propaganda spewing from the right, especially from people like Charlie Kirk and Aaron Wexler. You would have thought a brown man winning an election was the beginning of the apocalypse with how hard they spiraled. Aaron Wexler in particular took it to a level that was not only unhinged, but straight up genocidal. She saw Jewish New Yorkers holding a sign that said New York City Jews for Zohran, and her response was Jews for gas chambers. That's not just anti-Semitic, it's violently anti-Semitic. Using Holocaust language to target Jews who simply support Palestinian liberation. You can't scream never forget 1 minute and then mock Jews for remembering that never again applies to everyone. But she didn't stop there, no, she called New York Manhattan and Gaza of the Atlantic. This isn't satire, but it is lazy, recycled post-9/11 Islamophobia meant to make people scared of Muslims, Arabs, and anyone who doesn't look like her. All this over Zohran. So let's ask the question, what exactly is so threatening about his platform? Is it affordable rent, public housing, defending trans rights, wanting New York to divest from genocide? The only reason people like Aaron are this angry is because someone they can't control, someone who doesn't cater to white comfort, just won. I'm so sorry, Aaron, that not every Jewish person is a pawn in your racist narrative. Some of them actually read history, and some of them know better than to fall for fear-mongering about Muslims just because you wrapped it in a Zionist flag and called it a talking point. So go ahead and cope, loudly and publicly. Just know that none of us are falling for it anymore. ICE agents cover their faces during raids because deep down they know what they're doing is shameful. If it wasn't—
Oh wow, there is so much to unload with this video, but I'm gonna start out by saying what you did was wrong. You went after a disabled man. Did you not go to his page, lady? Did you not go to it? He's on here trying to be like everybody else, and you went after a disabled man and freaking tried to down him because he voted for Trump?
Let's clear something up since accuracy clearly isn't your strong suit. You said I went after a disabled man and tried to down him for voting differently than me. No, I responded to a video where he said he likes his country how he likes his water, full of ice. That's not harmless, that's a clear, cold message about what kind of people he thinks belong here. I didn't say a single word about his disability, and I didn't even know he was disabled, and quite frankly, it wouldn't have changed a thing. If you have the ability to post a public video pushing hateful, exclusionary rhetoric, you are fully participating in the conversation, and you don't get a free pass from being called out just because you're disabled. That is not equality, that's infantilization. So no, I didn't go after anyone. I addressed his message the same way I would if it came from anyone else. And for the record, calling me a white liberal bitch is as lazy as your attempt at a moral argument. I'm not white, and I'm not the one who made this personal. You did.
As a moderate who used to lean left, I have to chime in about why making public transportation free is a bad idea. In regards to women's safety, we all know that taking the bus is safer than taking the subway, and when you make something free, it tends to invite more crime.
How do you think people get out of poverty? They get to work, they get to school, they get to job interviews. Do you know how they do that? Accessible transportation. You know what doesn't reduce crime? Keeping the bus fare at $2.90. You know what does? Reducing poverty. And when poverty goes down, crime rates go down. This isn't rocket science. So to advocate against free public transit in the name of safety isn't just classist, it's illogical, counterproductive, and honestly kind of evil. You're not worried about crime, you're just worried about sitting next to someone poor, and I wish you'd just say that. And let's be real, if women don't have access to affordable transit, they're often forced to walk alone on the street, at night, which is inherently more dangerous. So spare us your fake concern about safety because your argument puts us in even more danger. Yeah, the cops came and I actually never saw my mom ever again.
After that incident?
Yeah. I was raised by a single dad. I think he did the best that he could, but he had some demons, you know.
Sure.
I know he was a milkman at one point. I think he worked for Shamrock, and so it's funny because he would deliver milk to schools, and one of my elementary schools was his.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
So
people
you'd
was
see
like,
him
oh,
come
I
by.
saw your dad
Yeah.
delivering milk. My dad had a drug and alcohol addiction, and I remember I kept track of this. Over the span of 2 years, we got evicted 11 times. And I'll be honest, I mean, my dad would be gone for days at a time. And I'm 11 years old watching my brother not knowing where my dad went, when he's coming back.
By yourself? Wow.
Yeah. And there was times where, like, I would invite a friend over after school just for me to come home and the lights weren't on because the electric bill wasn't paid. I can't tell you the amount of times I had to shower in pitch black darkness.
When did we start normalizing baby mama culture? Like, why is it so normal to have a man's baby without being married? Why are you having a man's child without the security of marriage?
It's wild how you managed to make a video about women having children without being married and didn't place an ounce of responsibility on the men that got them pregnant. I don't think you're concerned with what we're normalizing. I think you're uncomfortable with the fact that more and more women aren't waiting around for a man to validate them with a ring. And instead of asking why so many men are fine creating families they have no intention of showing up for, you jump straight to judging the women left to raise the kids. Groundbreaking analysis. And if we're being honest, marriage isn't what you think it is. Divorce is more common than not. A ring has never stopped a man from cheating, abandoning his family, or doing the bare minimum. If anything, all it guarantees is that when he dips, there's paperwork involved. And here's the thing, I'm not even someone who wants kids. I'm also not someone who projects my own insecurities onto women making different choices than me. And I've got to say it, some of y'all liberal white women are just as obsessed with respectability and control as the MAGA ones. You just say it with slightly better lighting and a vote for Kamala. So maybe the issue isn't baby mama culture. Maybe the issue is that more and more women are realizing they don't need a man's last name to build a life, and you don't know what to do with that.
All right, y'all, that one girl on TikTok whose name is Slay the GOP decided to make a video about me. Since I'm here, I'm gonna watch the video. So I just saved it, and let's see what she has to say about me.
Oh, your grandparents came here legally. You say that like it's some accomplishment you earned. You inherited privilege. Don't mistake that for superiority.
So actually, it really is an accomplishment that my family came from poverty. From the Philippines, complete poverty. Second, it really doesn't matter if a law makes it easier or harder to do something. It doesn't mean you can just break the law. Like, if it was $50 to get a license 30 years ago, and now it's $100 to get a license, I'm just making stuff up, does that mean I should go get a fake ID? I also find it funny how in the same breath, you're saying people need to come to this country because they're not privileged, and then you're calling someone who came to this country legally privileged.
So first of all, I never said your family was privileged. I said you inherited privilege. There's a difference. Your grandparents immigrating here legally doesn't change the fact that you didn't have to navigate that system. You benefit from the outcome, not the journey. You're not special for being born here. Second, saying it's an accomplishment that your family came from poverty and came here legally isn't the gotcha you think it is. You just reinforced my point that they had a path available to them. A path that's been gutted for so many others today. Do you think that proves some moral high ground? All it proves is timing. Immigration law isn't static. It shifts constantly based on race, nationality, labor needs, and foreign policy. Third, and this part really had me cackling, your driver's license analogy. You're comparing people getting a license to people fleeing gang violence, war, government crackdowns, or cartels. I need you to be so for real. And lastly, I love that you think me pointing out that you are privileged contradicts the idea that people are fleeing their countries because they aren't privileged. That's literally the contrast. You didn't have to flee. You didn't have to navigate a broken system. You were born here. You're sitting in a room talking about how everyone else should just follow the rules while patting yourself on the back for being handed a finished race. You didn't twist my words. You just didn't understand them.
Wait, what? Florida just built a detention center for illegal immigrants in the middle of the Everglades? Oh no, it's not just a detention center. It's called Alligator Alcatraz. Trademark pending. That's sick. That's evil. That's dystopian. There are literally alligators out there. Exactly. And guess what? They work every time. No union needed. This is cruel and unusual punishment. It's a hurricane zone. Look, the GOP said it best. They can't get in a hurricane if they self-deport.
It is always the bleach-fried blondes with brunette roots showing who think throwing on a blue hair filter is the height of political humor. Damn, you really ate with that stereotype for the millionth time. But let's talk about what you're actually defending. You're mocking outrage over a detention center in a hurricane zone surrounded by alligators where people are being held without due process. Some of them haven't even had their asylum claims heard. Their crime? Trying to build a life. And yet you sit there giggling like it's an SNL sketch while defending a political party and president who's actually been indicted, sued, and convicted. But they're the problem because they crossed a border without papers. You are desensitized to human suffering, and instead of asking yourself why that is, you made a skit about it. Thank God that blue hair filter exists though. At least now you know blue isn't your color, morally or aesthetically. So, 2 weeks ago, I posted a can of La Colombe s'mores iced latte on my Instagram story, not thinking much of it, just talking about how delicious it was. And then I got mass DMs from vegans telling me I'm not a real feminist because the label on the can said it was made with whole milk. I was told that I support the rape and torture of female cows and therefore shouldn't speak on any social justice issues, and that I am a hypocrite and that my morals are inconsistent. So let me be clear, I take no issue with vegans. I take issue with the ones who think it's appropriate to shame people for what they consume when there is no human way to ethically consume anything under capitalism. Not your coffee, not your phone, not your goddamn oat milk. We're all doing what we can. Shaming people for what they eat doesn't make you more ethical, it just makes you insufferable. You can be half Mexican and speak out against ICE. You can be adopted by a black woman and care about black maternal health. You can care about Gaza, trans rights, and gun control, even if those things don't directly affect you. That's what intersectionality is, recognizing how systems of oppression overlap, even if they don't all hit home personally. But intersectionality isn't a purity test, and it's not a reason to go on a witch hunt over dairy. Unless you are harassing every single progressive who isn't vegan, owns a pet that eats meat, shops on Amazon, or contributes to this broken system in any way, then what you are doing is not activism, it's selective outrage. Feminism is about bodily autonomy, choice, and justice, not moral elitism over food. And if your version of activism requires tearing people down who mostly align with you because they had a latte with milk, you are not building a better world, you're pushing people out of it.